I do. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. As we're going through these photos, I do get asked if we service trucks. Yes, we do. And SUVs. Those tend to be higher price because generally most trucks and I'd say full-size SUVs tend to take more oil, 7-8 quarts. So we do those as well. We obviously don't do the giant trucks and trailers. That's interesting. Someone asked me a question last year about that, and that is a very intensive process and takes a long time. Apparently, those large trucks, you have to fill up a certain amount and then run the engine, turn it off, and then let it settle and then add more oil, etc. So that's not a market that we go after, but certainly domestic cars, imports, trucks and SUVs.
What about like diesel pickups?
Yes, we can do those. Yep.
An important market in Texas.
Yeah. Well, I got sent an article this morning. Everyone talks about electric vehicles. And I think with each one of you that I've worked with so far, it is something that we've chatted about. I got an article about an hour ago. I think the writer was Russian, but he talks about the European market and how much energy is required to produce electric vehicles. And it's a serious document, but it's sort of tongue in cheek. If any of you would like it, or I can just send it out to the group here. I think it would be interesting reading for you if any of you still have any doubts about electric vehicles taking over the market in the next 10, 15 years. So
I'd like to get a copy. This is Sabrina.
okay, I'll send it to you, Sabrina.
Michael, there's still 7 people on the invite list that haven't joined, but I think we can probably kick things off. And if anyone wants to go back, the early part is very easy to skim through. So
Costa, are you going to be able to record this?
Yeah, it should be recording.
Okay, great. Sabrina's son couldn't make it, and we wanted to send him a recording, so
yeah,
we can make that available to everyone.
Not a problem. All right, I will get this set up then. Thank you everybody for joining the call. I'm going to hop on video in a second while I set up the slide deck. Typically, this Discovery Day slide deck that I'm about to go through is essentially an all-day event, and we typically have people here in person to kind of observe our operations as well as visit the store, etc. But we're trying to squeeze in this last Discovery Day before we stop selling franchises for a little while, and we want to make sure that everyone gets the proper disclosures and we do everything the right way. So that's why we're mixing in this mini Discovery Day where we're going to go over all the same information. I'm going to be doing everybody's section, as opposed to typically we have our vendors be a part of this process. We have franchisees be a part of the process. We have other members of my team be a part of the process, but I think I'm just going to run through this. I anticipate it taking just a couple hours to go through it. There's going to be parts that are designed to be interactive that I'm just going to kind of move through. I don't foresee there being much interactiveness in this slide deck outside of Q&A, things of that nature. So feel free to ask questions on any section. I'm going to try not to speak out of line with when it comes to our third-party vendors that typically speak, but I have an idea of each section just from running this business for as long as we have. So Michael will help along the way. Chris can help along the way. And John Voles actually probably can help along the way as well, since he has attended at least 7 Discovery Days of ours, both in Cleveland and our headquarters here in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So I'm sure everyone is more than happy to be helpful. So I will let people in if anyone else joins. I'm going to go ahead and pop on video real quick. Does everybody see it? Is on everyone's screen? It just says Discovery Day with blank screen with our logo and a bottle of oil.
Yeah, yes. Thanks for checking. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Cool. So, thanks everybody for joining us. I recognize some of the people. I think Sabrina was on our call on Tuesday. And so I'm not going to go too deep into our background, in my background rather, because it's all over. You can find it anywhere if you're interested in what my background is and how I got to this point. So I'm more than happy to point you to prior videos, but my background, I've been in this business now for 8 years. I grew up in Portland, Maine, met my wife in college out here in the mid-Atlantic, and that's how you typically get settled somewhere, is when you start building a family like that. So me and my wife live here in Hanover, Pennsylvania, 5 minutes away from our headquarters. I always like to start our Discovery Days off with this slide right here, which in the middle photo is our first location in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Before there were drones, you had to get aerial photo shoots done by crop dusters. So you'd have to go to someone like someone that had a farm and ask them to take aerial photos. And so when I took over this location, the previous owner was kind enough to give me these pictures from, I think this is 1993. And the top photo was actually gifted to me from the Hanover Historical Society. The top photo represents, or is not represents, it is our Hanover location, which is on the bottom. The bottom photo is what that building looks like right now. I like to lead off with this slide deck because it kind of shows the history and kind of the aesthetic behind our design with the red brick facade and kind of the direction we wanted to go. And also, I learned of a story through researching about this building that in the 1940s during World War II, the community would actually watch films at this building on the rationing of gas and why it was patriotic to ration gas. And so I thought that was an interesting part of our story. And I really, I'm a history guy. I enjoy being in a town like Hanover. We're right next to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And it's a part of who we are. Anyone who has spent any significant time with me knows that we have a lofty vision and we want to be recognized as the most recognized oil change only quick lube in the country. If you haven't already noticed, the larger players in our space have already started moving away from the oil change only model in search of higher revenues, and that's typically due to the franchising model, whereas we are perfectly content with providing a service that the consumer wants. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what we want to strive to be, especially when electric vehicles do penetrate the market in a more significant way. We want to be known as the best oil change only and the fastest oil change only company. And so at this point in time, we typically do like a little thought exercise with everybody who's in person, where I go around the room and I ask everybody, when I say fast food, who do you think of? And just to kind of cut to the end story, pretty much most of the time you get McDonald's will be very commonly said. And when we first started selling franchises, which is actually a year ago, essentially today, it was very heavy McDonald's, but more recently we'll start to hear Chick-fil-A quite a bit. And what that tells me is that top of mind brand awareness is not safe for anybody, because when McDonald's, which is one of the largest landowners in the world, and when McDonald's is one of the most established fast food franchises in the world, starts getting people saying Chick-fil-A and top of mind brand awareness when it comes to fast food, that means that any industry is able to be disrupted. Any industry is ready for someone to step in and potentially change that top of mind brand awareness. And that is exactly what we hope to do. Core values is another part of our conversation that we have kind of an interactive part. And I know Michael loves this part, so he'll be disappointed that we're not going through with everyone, but I just don't think we have the time to do it. But typically we'll go around the room and ask everyone which one of our core values most resonates with you and why does it most resonate with you. And a lot of people, I would say over the years, and Michael, John, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the most people pick kindness, which ironically enough is one of those things that you think is common sense, but we've all had a customer experience where the act of the person you're dealing with was in a way that was so rude that it didn't matter what the price was, it didn't matter what the quality of the service was, that interaction kind of scarred that business forever. And so kindness to us is incredibly important to every part of our business. It's embedded in our job ads. We literally will put looking for kind people. And so kindness, and I'm kind of starting at the bottom rather than going through the letters in order, but kindness is probably the most commonly chosen one. Quality over quantity for us, we want our interactions to be quality, and we think that that will lead to higher conversions of sales. It will lead to higher interactions, more quality interactions with customers will lead to higher retention, and then it will lead to higher retention of customers and also employees. Unified to me essentially means accountability. We're accountable to you as the franchisor. We're here to support the franchisees as they go through this process of building a business. And then you're accountable to us, upholding our brand standards and sticking to the model and making sure that everybody is in line with what we're trying to do. Innovation is very important to us because we are in an established industry that hasn't had a ton of innovation. It's been essentially the same for the past 40 years when Jiffy Lube first started franchising in the early 80s. And now more than ever, being smart about marketing, being smart about collaboration. These are the types of things that will give a competitive advantage because some of these larger companies are much slower moving and they're not as quick to be innovative when it comes to some of these things. And then customers first. At the end of the day, we are a consumer-based business. We are nothing without our customers. They are what brings in the money, and we can talk about meta values all day, things up in the clouds. But at the end of the day, this is about commerce, and we need to have customers. And so we put those customers first. And I tell my guys all the time, we're a retail business first, automotive second. And for me, what that means is, you may have come from a Midas or a Meineke where you have a dark, dirty garage, cigarette butts everywhere, and you can cuss and play the radio as loud as you want. That's not a super inviting experience. And so we want to present ourselves as a retail business so that the consumer has the best possible experience. Our discovery days are a day of mutual recognition of what we're looking for in a business, you guys looking for in a franchise partner, and us looking for a franchisee. We don't necessarily need the smartest people with the highest degrees and the most prestigious schools. We put a huge emphasis on EQ over IQ, which is difficult when we do these virtual discovery days because I don't get the chance to meet you guys. I don't get the chance to have the side conversations during breaks and learn about you and your family and what makes you guys tick. But at the end of the day, you want to do business with people you want to do business with, and you want to do business with people you like. And so the franchise agreement is a 15-year agreement, and that's a serious commitment. That's longer than the average marriage in the US these days, 50% of them at least. And so it's very important to understand that we're in a people business. And so for us, that kind of person is going to be a much more capable franchisee than someone with maybe a Wharton Business School degree. I like to start off our discovery days with this video from Jim Rohn. I'm going to go ahead and skip it, but if you guys go on YouTube and type in Jim Rohn takes risks, that's a fun little video on risk, and it's just about business. And, you know, franchises are business, and franchises are just as risky as any other business. We do paint by numbers. Essentially, we give you the playbook, but at the end of the day, you are a business owner, and it's important for you to remember that. And we also feel it's important for you to feel like a business owner. So we're not going to what you'll find throughout today is that we don't mandate a lot of things. We actually only mandate a handful of things, and part of that is to emphasize how important we think those things are. But we also don't want people to feel like they're buying an expensive job. And so we want people to feel like they're business owners, and they have the flexibility to make business decisions that will help them create the business within the confines of the system that we built that is a proven model. So we're going to start getting into the actual bread and butter of the Discovery Day. We open up with our multifaceted approach to getting you open. If you look at some of the competitors in our space, whether it's Grease Monkey or Strickland Brothers or Speedy, Express Oil Change, there's typically only a couple avenues to get open, and most of it revolves around new construction, which is a very time-consuming process. Now, new commercial real estate is a very fun thing to be a part of if you have the patience and the resources to do it. There's nothing more fun than being on a job site and seeing something built from nothing. But we want to create a multifaceted approach to getting you open, because at the end of the day, the sooner you can deploy those dollars towards getting the store open, the sooner you can get a return on those dollars. And also, obviously, for us as a franchise system, getting stores open is the only way to bring in revenue as a franchisor. So we have 3 different ways that we're about to go through. We have created the only self-service car wash conversion template that exists. There are very few self-service car wash conversions out there. Most of the time, if there is a car wash attached to a quick lube that was done at the time of the design, we're the only ones that have put together an actual playbook for how to convert self-service car wash bays into an oil change facility. Because of the rise of the tunnel car wash system, there's actually been a depression in self-service car wash properties. And so the value of these properties has been suppressed a little bit, and that makes them much more accessible for people like us to go in and convert a bay and bring some excitement to the property that it otherwise may have not had. This is a picture of our location in Rock Hill, South Carolina. This is one of our franchise locations. I'm going to talk a little bit about the oil change platform, which is a product that we created in order to turn self-service car washes into oil change stations. Now, all variables being equal, we would prefer our bays to have pits, but this platform does allow you to get open faster. Essentially what this does is it allows a car to drive up and into the bay and over an open hole in the floor that simulates the oil change pit that most quick lube facilities have. The problems that this product solves is real estate timeline. Obviously, this opens you up to a lot more availability of facilities. The US has about 60,000 self-service car washes, whereas there's only 8,000 quick lube facilities in the entire country. And then additionally, it allows you to avoid having to do new commercial real estate, which is a time-consuming process. And when you're doing something like this, it's a building permit as opposed to construction permit, which is a much less involved process. You don't have civil engineers involved. You don't have zoning hearings. You don't have ingress, egress. You don't have to deal with those problems if you are just installing garage doors onto an existing car wash self-service bay. Essentially, this is the schematics of it from our welding and fabrication partner that makes the product. Here's some pictures of the product itself. It's been designed to, just to go back for a second, it's been designed to withstand a 20,000 pound construction vehicle. So we had a civil engineer do the drawings to make sure that it's perfectly safe, regardless of what type of vehicle goes on it. There are constraints, there are height constraints when it comes to the self-service car washes. Most of them are about 10 foot high. And so then you add this pit into it, it kind of limits you to passenger vehicles. So I know Michael was talking to someone earlier about that, but my F-150 fits inside and I have oversized tires on it, but you probably would not be able to get like a cargo van with a ladder rack. Then we're going to talk about new kiosk construction. And there's basically two ways to do new construction. You can do a land purchase with site improvements or a land lease with site improvements. And the term site improvement essentially means putting a building. So if you buy the land and you do a site improvement, then you're buying the land and having a building built on it. If you lease the land and do site improvements, you're leasing the land and having a building put on it. We think there's opportunity for site purchase. We believe that there is going to be opportunities as the gas station companies start moving away from corner gas stations to these large or made-to-go food systems where the Buc-ee's of the world and the racetrack and Wawa and Sheetz, where you can actually sit down and have dinner inside of a gas station. They require much larger footprints. And so the days of the 600 square foot convenience store, those days are kind of gone. And then also regional banks are being eaten up by larger banks. They're also going out of business left and right. And so there's odd shaped lots that are becoming available. The building itself takes very little time to go up. Our building that was built in St. Albans, the actual time between the foundation pour and the building going up was less than 8 weeks. It's really the time before that that takes the most time. And that includes the getting permits, having the site overlay done, having the drawings done, shipping the materials, things like that. But once the actual kit is sent to the site, it takes very little time for it to go up. This is typically the layout of our facility and how we want it to be laid out between the tanks and your point of sale system and all of that. The third facet and the easiest is quick lube conversion. Quick lube conversion just means finding an existing oil change facility and then rebranding it as a Costa Oil. The reason this is difficult is there is only so many facilities available in the US, and this is a very difficult business to fail at. So there's just not a lot of them available. And when they become available, either through someone retiring or maybe the business closing down, they do not stay available for very long. And if they do stay available for very long, typically there's a reason why. So just want to share that. But doing a quick loop conversion is the easiest way to get open. All 9 of our franchise locations that are open right now were quick loop conversions. We have 2 buildings under construction right now that will be open by the end of April. And then we have several others breaking ground, and we're going to have a healthy mix of new construction, quick loop conversions, and car wash conversions going forward. At this point in time, we typically talk to our partner, Peter Colvin, who does the leaseback program. I will give Peter's contact information for anybody that wants to talk to Peter Colvin, since I don't really want to speak on his behalf too much. But typically what Peter provides is the ability to connect with a private investor who will fund the construction of the building. The reason that's valuable is it's not easy to get a construction loan for buildings that are on land that you do not own. When you do a deal that has the land included, that's called a fee simple real estate deal. And those are much easier to go to the bank and say, okay, this is going to be secured by both the building and the land. Whereas with a ground lease, you have just the building and you don't own the land. And so you're dealing with 2 different documents, a ground lease and then the site improvements lease. Because of that, a guy like Peter Colvin becomes a solution where he places a private investor to fund the construction and get the building built.
Costa, you know, I'm wondering if this wouldn't be a good time, maybe just to do a quick question and answer session, because it is an important section that we cover. And I know Peter's on the call for about 30-40 minutes. I'd, certainly go over this through my presentations, but maybe it would be good just to do like just let's allow 5 minutes,
Yeah, let me get through construction timeline and expectations, and then we'll do a Q&A on that part.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So the construction timeline can range anywhere from 9 months to 2 years, depending on the necessary amount of hearings, the what's required of the town. This is actually a site overlay we did for a site in York, Pennsylvania, that we went pretty far down the process before finding out that this was not going to be a approved use because it's too close to the Chesapeake watershed. Or not the Chesapeake watershed. There was something to do with the water in this area, and that is exactly what our real estate team is trying to help with. Is we don't want to spend a lot of money to find out that the use is not going to be approved. So a little bit later in this conversation is the Morrow Hill folks, which is our master broker, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we do have a great real estate team in place to help navigate these questions. Okay, we found a site. Let's go through the process of finding out, is this going to be approved? Let's do a site overlay. Let's submit it to the town. Let's see what they think. We don't want to get to a point where we've started construction or we've spent money on materials and then we're not going to be approved for this use, or it's going to be dragged out for way too long, and when we can move on to the next town or location. These are just some of the schematics on our facility and how they're set up. And Michael, I'm real quick going to do site selection as well. So Morrow Hill is our master broker. Now, we don't mandate that you use Morrow Hill. You can use whoever you'd like for site selection. At the end of the day, the real estate process is driven by the franchisee. Outside of McDonald's, there's never really been a brand that has had the clout to tell franchisees, we're going to put you where you're going to be and you have to like it. In almost all franchise systems, the franchisee is responsible for site selection. And so because of that, we provide you with tools, we provide you with support, we try to help out as much as possible. But those who are super successful in finding their sites typically have taken the bull by the horns and really run with it, submitted sites, and we've got a mix of people who have used a local broker themselves or have used Morrow Hill. Morrow Hill is here for you as a resource, since they know what we're looking for. They understand the sites that we're looking for, and they are a national franchise brokerage firm. So they have the ability to do all of the assessment and understand what we're looking for. However, again, it's not a mandated part of this process. You don't have to use Morrow Hill. They help with lease negotiation. They help with finding out how far the utilities are from the site. They help with traffic counts, things like that. All the things that you would want and need to have in order to find a site. And again, the people who have had the most success with this process have been very involved, whether they've used Morrow Hill or someone else. They've been involved themselves, whether it's on their day-to-day driving around their community and seeing, oh, there's a development happening right now and they're in phase 1 of their development. Maybe we jump in and try to be one of the parcels here, or they see a leasing sign and they get it over to Morrow Hill and maybe it's off listed, or you know, here's a ice cream parlor that has way more parking than they need. Maybe we can strike a deal with them. So that's the kind of stuff that has worked really well alongside the Morrow Hill team. They understand our site expectations. They know what we're looking for. Whether it's a 2-bay facility or a 1-bay facility, that can impact the ability to go into a site. To talk about the Manor on the Lake location, a 2-bay site would not have worked there because of the flow of traffic. So that's why we even introduced the 1-bay facility in the first place, is that the only concept that would have worked is a 1-bay. Now, all variables equal, of course, we would prefer a 2-bay. There's a higher revenue ceiling when you have a 2-bay facility, but the 1-bay facility Also scales down in terms of expense, so it's not a problem in terms of the ability to run a nice little business out of the one bay facility. We have a 50,000 3-mile radius that we do our territory mapping on, and these are all things that Morrow Hill can help with in terms of trying to locate the best possible location for your site. What we just don't want to have happen is analysis paralysis, especially if you're doing a single unit. We just don't, if there's a viable site, we've designed this model in a way that this is designed to be a in secondary, tertiary markets. We're not meant, you know, this, when I started this business, we're in central Pennsylvania, we're in western Pennsylvania, we're in eastern Ohio, we're in Cleveland, you know, the Youngstown area. We're making this model work in those markets that have been kind of left behind. And so we never expected our first franchisee was going to be in Mesa, Arizona, one of the most moved to cities in the country. And so we don't want our franchisees to get hung up on trying to find the exact perfect location, because for us, the model itself is way more important than the location, because we're going to drive people to the store through other means. And once they've experienced this oil change, they're going to realize, okay, I don't ever have to go back to a Jiffy Lube ever again. So this is the process with Morrow Hill, sending LOIs. They're non-binding. You can send as many or as few as you'd like, go through the lease process, and then go through the process of getting the store open, depending on whether it's a conversion or a new build. So at this point, we can do a Q&A right now. We'll just do, you know, it's tough to do 5 minutes, Michael, because the answers can be 5 minutes and we've got a lot to get through, but certainly happy to field any burning questions at the moment.
Yeah. Maybe we won't get any. Yeah.
Okay.
I would, you got to give us time to come off mute, Costa. So I would appreciate maybe a little deeper dive into the lease piece. And if nobody else is interested in that, then Michael, maybe, you know, you can arrange for me to talk to Kevin outside of, or Peter outside of this.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else could just take their mute button, or if we could just do sort of a, you know, a quick tally if you want us to just move on, or if you'd prefer Costa to answer that question right now.
Yeah, no, if you go with Morrow Hill, they're going to do a review of the lease to make sure that it matches with the LOI that they drafted. But at that point, you know, the lease needs to be reviewed either by yourself or your franchise attorney or a attorney that specializes in leases. So the lease part of the process is really almost solely on the franchisee, while Morrow Hill will definitely make sure that it matches what you submitted, you know, any of the caveats and free rent, deferred rent, anything like that. They'll make sure that those things make their way into the lease. But at the end of the day, something like a lease needs to be reviewed by someone on the franchisee's side. If you do use Peter Colvin, again, Peter Colvin is not mandated as a means of having the building constructed. He will have a site improvements lease that he provides, and it's the same one that he provides to every building that he's building. So we're pretty familiar with it on our side. But again, that needs to be independently reviewed by someone on the franchisee side.
Thanks, Costa.
They're just 15-year leases. They have to match the contract of the franchise agreement. There can be escalations put in. I know from Peter's side of things, it's just a 10% markup of the building. So just to use round numbers, if the building costs $300,000 to build, divide that or multiply by 0.10, that's 30,000. Divide that by 12, that's $2,500 a month. And that's what your building rent would be. So then you combine that with your your ground lease, or if you purchase the land with the building and say the total cost is 500,000, then it would be 50,000 a year, divide that by 12, and then that would be your gross lease minus insurance, maintenance, and taxes. So that's just the math on the Peter Colvin side of things.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and if we need to delve into it further with anyone else, please just shoot me an email and we can have additional discussions on that.
And I have an additional question that's unrelated to that. Costa, I heard you say the other day that, obviously there's the single bay kiosk concept. Most it appears are doing two bay, but you made the statement that if you acquire an existing structure, whether it's a quick change, an existing quick change, or maybe it's a car wash, if it has more than two bays, you don't advocate using or having more than two bays. Can you enlighten me as to why that is?
Yeah, it comes down to customer experience. In order to run 3 bays efficiently, you need more staff. And the 3 bays come from the day and age of the 2,000-mile oil change interval. And so in the heyday of Jiffy Lube, they may have been doing 100 cars a day. And there's certainly facilities out there in the world that do 100 cars a day. I know of several stores that do 100 cars a day. In our busiest store has done upwards of 60 cars in a day, and we've handled it with 2 bays, no problem whatsoever, with no decrease in the ability to service the customers. But when you get to the point, if you're running 3 bays, and you're going to need the staffing in order to cover those 3 bays, the customers are going to expect you to use those 3 bays, and they'll, especially if you don't get in front of it and they're sitting in line, maybe you have 2 cars in and 3 cars waiting, and someone's like, well, why don't you just let me in the 3rd bay? Like, you need to block those bays off. Sometimes we'll even take the doors out and board it up with drywall. It comes down to the efficiency of the model. You typically have 1 guy running bottom side, 1 guy running top side. If you're doing 20 cars a day, then utilizing 3 bays is only going to be a detriment more than it can help. It's just not it's tough to explain without actually like bringing you to the site and showing you how it works, because we have several 3 bay facilities and we only use 2 bays in every single one of them. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the ability to perform the service well and staffing in a way that performs the model well. And actually, on the topic, next time you drive by like a 3 bay Jiffy Lube or Valvoline, just like keep an eye out for it now. A lot of the times you'll see those guys will have a cone out in front of one of the bays. So even they are with the other services that they provide. What a lot of Jiffy Lubes do now is they'll dedicate a bay to like inspection, brakes, and tires. But to be able to do a 30-40 car a day store only takes 2 bays.
Good. I think we're good.
Okay. I'm going to skim through True Brand real quick. True Brand is a vendor of ours that creates our private label products for the additives. Our main cogs in our business are additives, oil filters, and bulk oil. And so COGS just stands for cost of goods and service. And so the bulk of it is going to be your bulk oil and then your oil filters. And then we have our ancillary products are another cog, and that can include things like wiper blades, air filters, high mileage additive, oil system cleaner, things of that nature. True Brand is a female-owned company in Lakeland, Florida that creates the product in-house, so it's made in the USA. This is a short list of the products that they make for us. And they provide things outside of just the products that are helpful. They will actually show up to the stores to help with sales training, to help explain products. They also have an online training platform that they give to all their customers. And so by extension, they give it to us and the franchisees so that you can do training on the products and kind of have some of those tactical sales nuggets to help move these products, because the oil change only model, while that is our North Star, there's these ancillary products that help boost ticket average, which is the difference between a store that makes some money and a store that makes good money. And that's it for True Brand. I think the next several select sections are usually done by one of our vendors, and so I don't want to do a disservice to any of them, but I'm going to run through them real quick because it's already 11:45. So Petro Choice, again, Petro Choice is who we use, and the reason we use Petro Choice is because it's the closest thing to a national distributor of oil that there is. The logistics of lubricants is very difficult, and so even the majors such as Shell, Chevron, etc., they don't do their distribution in-house. They typically use a network of sub-distributors. So on this screen right here, you're going to see a list of all of the Petro Choice locations. The gold ones represent Petro Choice owned facilities, and the black ones are sub-distributors that they have, which basically means that they move the product on behalf of Petro Choice. So no one in the country has done as good of a job as Petro Choice to cover as much of the country as they have. I would love for Petro Choice to have more of a West Coast presence, but right now, outside of Petro Choice, there's only one other company called Relodyne that does close to as good of a job as them. So we largely subscribe to the notion that people don't pick a quick lube based on brand. They pick it based on service, experience, and price. And so for us, using an unbranded oil is the best way to, one, keep that extra margin, two, keep competitive pricing, and three, make sure that that margin is where we want it to be. That allows us to focus on our branding. It allows us to focus on the service, and it also allows us to be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to customer acquisition. So, I've always said that if the average quick lube consumer cared more about brand than anything else, then Mobil 1 Express Lube would be the largest oil change chain in the country, and it's not. It's actually almost non-existent at this point. So I think that we do carry some brands in-house. We try to cater, we try to cast as wide a net as possible, and then cater to the fringes. But at the end of the day, we're not going to get bogged down and carry a ton of SKUs to cater to that one person who wants Quaker State. And, we're not going to carry that on the shelves just for that minority customer base that is going to end up probably being a difficult customer in the long run anyway. So Petro Choice, again, we don't mandate that you use Petro Choice. I believe all of our franchisees are using Petro Choice to some extent or another. Our franchisee in Mesa, Arizona may not be, because the sub-distributor in Phoenix, I believe, is not up to the standards that we want them to be. I'm trying to think of who else we have right now, but for the most part, everyone has chosen to use Petro Choice at this point. Petro Choice meets all SAE and API specifications for their oil. Costs a lot of money to get the Dexos badge. As the cars get smaller and more compact, the oils are getting thinner and thinner. So we're seeing a changing in the amount of full synthetic oil that's being used right now, and it's about to be a majority of cars on the road. So we're basically at that point over the next couple of years where the majority of cars will be taking full synthetic, and it'll be more important than ever for the quality of the oil to meet those specifications.
Costa, could you just explain Dexos quickly to the group?
Yeah, Dexos is just Dexos is a badge. It's a specification that GM made to try to drive people back into the dealerships. And all the manufacturers have specifications of some sort. There are laws in place to protect independent repair shops from dealerships having warranties be based on certain behaviors. And so there's something called the Marshall Act, which says that the dealership can't void your warranty if you have your oil change done, not specifically oil change, but repairs in general done at an independent third party. And right now there's a lot of right to repair legislation going through. And so the way that some of these manufacturers try to sneak people back to the dealership is they create these specifications that are sometimes arbitrary, sometimes not, but Audi, BMW, Mercedes, they all have specs. But the Dexos one is the most in your face spec because it's on the cap. It gets the most recognition. And they charge the blenders of oil quite a bit of money to be able to put the badge on their product. And so at the end of the day, all Dexos means is meeting a spec or better. There are plenty of people who refuse to pay the fee to get the Dexos badge. And so you might see them say, you know, meets or exceeds. You'll see a lot of meets or exceeds. And that's kind of just a funny way of them saying, you know, we met the spec, but we don't want to pay the money to have the badge. And that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you.
Yep. Does anyone have any questions on oil? Oil is the largest expense outside of your labor, so it is worth stopping and talking about it.
Hey, Chris, how are you? This is Ali, Detroit area. Just a question. You mentioned a 2-bay averages around 30 to 40 cars generally in your stores.
I cannot talk about car averages. If you want to talk to one of the franchisees, you can. I know Michael and Chris have provided industry data. And so the industry data is available, but the FTC pretty closely regulates what we can do for what's considered financial representations, and a car count would be considered that. So we have stores that have ranges, you know, and it's within industry norms. I could say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ali, Chris could send you the National Oil and Lube News operator report, and you could just back that into the numbers in the disclosure document. That probably give you a good idea of a car count.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for helping on, Ali. So Costa is currently presenting, but I will send you that NOLM report right now.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
So we have a, if anyone else has any questions on oil, I'll pause again, and then we'll move on to equipment.
One thing I do want to reiterate, Costa, thanks for bringing up the supply chain. You know, I think that is sort of one of the core tenets of your business, along with the staffing aspect of it, and then the retail, aspect as well. Generally lower costs there. But the supply chain, I think, is amazing. And, you know, I've been privy to many different individuals that have looked at different brands. And I think with you, what's great about it is you're not using it as a revenue stream to drive more profit. You give access to the franchisees directly to your contracts that you've negotiated. And then, of course, they have that national distribution. So I think it's a big tenet of your concept is that you have a big value proposition there in terms of, you know, cutting that cost, I would say, to the max, you know, with really good quality product. So anyway, I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're in the middle of a worldwide filter shortage. But we have not been impacted by that because of the relationships that we have. So, and a lot of our industry is domestic. There's not a ton of stuff that we like. Most of the oil that is made in that goes into the cars out on the road is made in the US. And again, it goes back to the logistics of it. So it's a double-edged sword because it's difficult. You're not having refined lubricants coming in a pipeline or on a ship. It's got to be made here in order for it to be economical. So.
Good.
Cool. American lubrication, usually my friend Jeff Pruzak speaks. We actually have several different equipment vendors. We utilize gravity tanks. If anyone on this call is familiar with the automotive industry, you'll know that it's largely driven by pneumatic, which just means air. And so the typical quick loop had traditionally been having a two-phase compressor. And again, if you're familiar, you know that if that compressor goes down, then you're basically closed. So, we wanted to move towards a gravity feed system for two reasons. One, we wanted to not have any reason for closing. And two, we wanted to keep all of our petroleum products above grade. Just one less thing for a local zoning board to complain about. We don't have any storage tanks that are below grade. Service Champ is our largest vendor for everything else, and typically my good friend Ruben usually does this slide this part of the slide deck, and I've been working with Service Champ for quite some time now, since 2015, and they are actually what I would call the Walmart of aftermarket automotive, because they sell everything beyond just our oil filters, air filters, cabin air filters, fuel filters, wiper blades. They also sell us our shop supplies, our toilet paper, everything. They have a 2-day delivery time. We utilize a inventory system called just-in-time inventory. Just-in-time inventory basically means that when we go through our week by Saturday, typically the managers have put together a list of what they need for the following week, and then we place the order on Monday, and then it's received by Wednesday. For the majority of our stores, as long as we get the order in before 10 a.m. on Monday, they'll get it by Wednesday. If it's after typically like 12, 1 o'clock on Monday, then we might see it on Thursday, but very quick delivery time. And just to touch on that, when it comes to Petro Choice, they typically have a 3 business day lead time, which is pretty good for the industry. Some of these lubricant distributors are 7 to 10 day lead time. And, you never know when you're going to have a run on cars. You never know when you're going to have a run on the different weights of oil. And so it's important to get those lead times. But with with Service Champ, they're always going to have that 2 to 3 day lead time. They cover every brand you can think of that, you think of the different products that you use in your everyday automotive life, from Fram to Oil Eater to Rain-X to Mag 1, etc. They have all of these brands in-house. We don't really ever need to go to our national account with AutoZone unless it's just an absolute emergency. And so, since I brought that up, I'll kind of mention right now the purpose of our third-party relationship with one of the big box stores. We have a national account with AutoZone. We don't mandate that you use AutoZone. You can certainly use Advanced Auto Parts, O'Reilly's, etc. But we've struck a pretty good deal with AutoZone that gives us competitive pricing. I will say it's not nearly the pricing that you will get with Service Champ. When you order through someone like Service Champ, who is committed to the wholesale of commercial products, their prices are as rock bottom as it gets. However, it is important to have at least one account with one of the big box stores, because that is something you can get on demand, and most of them carry multiple drivers that allow for you to have a delivery of something on the spot. So we will utilize our relationship with AutoZone for that reason.
Costa, can you give us an example of something that, would be kind of out of the norm, where we might need to leverage the AutoZone relationship?
Yeah, that's a good question, Steve. So, there's thousands of year, make, model combinations, and we try, like I said earlier, we try to cast a wide net. And we're going to talk a little bit about inventory in a second here, but when you have, say, a 1988 Jaguar XF come in, there's very little chance you have that air filter. And to provide the most value possible, we always want to provide as many solutions on the spot as we can. So we may say to the customer, hey, we don't have this filter in stock, but I can get you one in the next 30 minutes. And we'll call AutoZone, say, hey, can you get us over this 1988 Jaguar filter in the next 15 minutes? And if they can, then we try to provide that value. Other times we'll use AutoZone to get things that we might have a run on, like coolant. So you can't get coolant from Service Champ. That's not something you can ship. So we get all of our coolant from, if we're not buying coolant in 55-gallon drums, that would come from AutoZone. There's a product called Bag in a Box that we get from AutoZone, and AutoZone is also where we carry, I talked a little bit about earlier, carrying some brands. So AutoZone's house brand is STP. And so when someone absolutely just refuses to work with a house oil, we carry a couple boxes of AutoZone STP oil in the box. And that's kind of a backup. The margin's not nearly as good, but it's still enough where you're making money. And then AutoZone is just really there for when you have a run on something and the lead time is just not going to allow you to get it when you need it. So maybe you had a bunch of 1030 cars come in and you only have so much, you would get that at AutoZone. And then it really comes down to filters. Canister filters are becoming more prevalent. We're going to talk about that in a second, actually. And so it's important that especially if you take a filter off, that car is in the bay until you can remove it. And so if you take a filter off and you don't have the replacement, then you got to have someone that you can go get that filter, else that car is going to be blocking the bay for some time, unless the customer is okay with you putting it back in and coming back later. But I would not advise that.
Thank you. And then one kind of follow on, I heard Michael talking about supply chain, but all of these providers, lubricants, oils, filters, other things, are they physically delivering to each and every location? Or if I had, so if I had a single location in a market, are they going to come to me? Or if I have a multiple location solution, are they bringing to one location and I'm having to get it out to others on my own?
No, they deliver to each individual location. So when it comes to the oil trucks have routes, and so you'll just be put on a schedule. These guys supply more. Petro Choice didn't really get big into the passenger car space until fracking became a little bit more regulated. They really made most of their money in the Marcellus Shale region of West Virginia, selling hydraulic fluids. But then when that kind of dwindled down, they saw an opportunity to deliver lubricants for passenger cars. And so I was fortunate enough to forge that relationship right when they were starting to do that. And so they sell oil to all kinds of customers. It's not just what you might think of. So it includes dealerships, mom and pop shops, and they'll have routes. And once you get on the route, you'll know what delivery days your individual stores would have. The filters, Service Champ has a $200 minimum order to avoid postage costs. And so as long as you're ordering $200, you might start by ordering bi-weekly in order to hit that number. Hopefully you're doing enough cars from the day one that you're doing $200 a week in orders, but that really will come with building up the business, and they deliver to each individual store. And then AutoZone, we have a different PIN with whatever the closest AutoZone is, and so they deliver to each individual store as well.
Thank you.
So we work with Service Champ to create your initial inventory order, because we're trying to be as lean as possible when it comes to these things. We don't want dead inventory. We don't want inventory collecting dust on your shelves, because if the inventory is not moving, then that's just money sitting there. And so, you know, we will look to make sure we're putting the most highest percentage of sales in your market. So, hey, Sabrina, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry if somebody asked this question already. My phone kind of dropped, seemed like a little bit, but I've always wondered, you know, the like high-end cars like myself, you know, I have a Lexus and Mercedes and stuff like that. Are you finding that folks like that will go to a 10-minute oil change place? Because they always ask for synthetic oil or something special, or how is that market? I mean, how is that?
Yeah, we do plenty of Mercedes and Lexus, and honestly, the biggest competition when it comes to those vehicles is usually those dealerships offer a certain amount
Yeah.
of free oil changes when you buy that vehicle. And so, but at the end of the day, we position ourselves as a convenience play more than anything. And so a lot of people, we have no shortage of customers who forego their free oil changes because they don't want to lose their car for, you know, 6-7 hours. They don't want to have to get a courtesy vehicle. They don't want to have to sit in a waiting room. And so, you know, all of the oil that we have meets those specs.
Okay.
For the full synthetic, and those are actually some of the most profitable vehicles for us, because especially the Mercedes, they typically take 8 quarts of oil. They typically take a canister filter. If you look at this list on the screen here, you can see that at one point in time there were 8 SKUs that covered 85% of cars on the road. That's starting to change a little bit as the canister filters become more prevalent, and all the canister filters are the paper media that is put into a filter housing, whereas the vast majority of cars still take spin-on filters. We include the spin-on filter as part of the service, but for the canister filters, we usually sell them at cost plus. And some of these filters are becoming really cheap because they're becoming more prevalent. And some of the synthetic oils are becoming cheaper because it's becoming more prevalent. So it's all supply and demand. But you know, those Mercedes filters, we might buy it for $6, but then sell it for 18. And so there's a big markup there. And that allows for those ticket averages to be a lot bigger. And typically those customers understand that their cars have special requirements or different requirements, and they're not as opposed to paying it. But I mean, you bring up a good point on the overall credibility issue that the system has, the industry has at the moment, which, you know, is something that we fight against quite a bit. And so we try to combat that with having employees that are trained to engage with the customers in a way that creates credibility, instead of trying to make sales from ignorance. You know, a lot of people, if they don't own their home, their vehicle is the most expensive asset that they have. And so we want to be good stewards of their property. And so we have an internal tagline that the most educated consumer will always choose us. So we'll talk to you about, hey, your car has electronic power steering. That's a fairly new feature. Or your car has this, your car has that, and try to establish that credibility early on, so that people feel more comfortable given some of the past credibility issues that the industry may have had.
Could we just ask, have everyone just check their microphones? I'm hearing some feedback on my end. I don't know what it's like for everyone else. Thank you.
If anyone wants to reach out to Julie or Ruben, here is their information. They are a wealth of knowledge. They've been in the industry for a really long time. Okay. Michael, do you want to do a 10-minute break? Or not even 10, 5?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. We do a quick bio break. Yeah, great.
All right.
Okay.
Hop off.
Yeah, thanks. We'll get back together. What's the time right now? 9:08. Why don't we plan to get back at 9:15 Pacific, 12:15 Eastern? Hey, Brandon. Okay, we'll do a Zoom. Okay. All right, let me I'll text him on his cell phone and see if I can get hold of him. Thank you for doing that. It looks like, let me just make sure. Give me one sec, Brandon. I just wanted to make sure.
Also, if anyone wants to ask any questions in the chat or raise your hand like Sabrina had, I think that's also a good way of making sure everyone gets their questions answered. I'll read the question and then answer it through the chat. All right, I think we're ready to probably kick back into this.
Okay.
All right, Michael, you ready to get
Yeah.
going?
Thanks, Costa. I don't know if you heard my last comment. I mentioned everyone to be back at 9:15. So
Oh, okay, I did not
yeah,
hear
if you
that.
wouldn't mind, just another
That's fine.
minute. Thank
Yep.
you.
No problem.
I did just speak. Oh,
I'm still here.
oh, hi. I did just speak with Brandon. He was arranging for Ryan to do a validation call, and he didn't.
I think Mitch is still gonna join us actually.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna text Ryan as well. He said he is available tomorrow, and I'll see what time will work for him. Hopefully we can get as many people on that want to talk to an existing franchisee at that time.
Not a problem.
Great.
Hey.
Okay. I
Yeah,
think
good.
I think we'll get back into it. So, yeah, as an emerging brand that doesn't have a national presence, while we've done some things to make strides in that area, whether it's through our private label products that are sold across the country or the sponsorship with the NASCAR team, we do realize that we need to be robust when it comes to marketing in order to get people into the doors. And so we set up a plan with all of our franchisees for pre-launch, launch, and post-launch. And so we're very much into checklists. Checklists are a way of making sure that you've covered everything that needs to be covered when it comes to opening a business. And so, you know, we think that if you follow these things that have worked for us as we've launched over, you know, we're at almost 20 corporate locations at this point. So we've done plenty of grand openings. We've been able to kind of figure out what works for us, what doesn't work. And we have a playbook that has had some pretty, and actually one of the questions you might want to ask Mitch about when Mitch comes on later is, how was your grand opening? How did you feel about it? What were some of the things that you did? But as far as ongoing marketing and grand opening marketing, we try to give you the tools to be able to make sure that it's as robust as possible. Here's a picture of the grand opening from the Mesa, Arizona store. Utilizing all the tools to have a positive grand opening allows you to have photos like these that you can then repurpose for later media and then reuse to show the breadth of the store. And so the Pierces in Arizona have done a great job of parlaying a very successful grand opening into the actual business building part, because everyone has the euphoria of the grand opening. Everyone's excited to be a business owner. And then when that weekend is over comes the hard work, which is the building of the business. And so with that comes with the different types of marketing that you can do. And while this is an incredibly old money mailer, or not money mailer, EDDM that we've done in the past, when oil prices were a lot lower and you could still make money on a $15 oil change. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of marketing efforts that you can do. And while we have always been on the forefront of the different types of social marketing, whether it had been Facebook ads, Facebook dark posts, or Instagram, TikTok, we're now dipping our toes into. All of these people are all of these platforms are relevant because all of the people on these platforms age up, and they always age up. And so the TikTok users, which is the most important platform in the world for the time being until the government either bans it or dismantles it, it's going to be important, and we will have first mover advantage, because I doubt that other quick lube brands are on the platform. And so by dipping our toe in and knowing, you know, how these platforms work gives us a competitive advantage. That being said, traditional means of marketing still work. And so if anyone on the call is familiar with EDDM, you have seen that the post office has created a platform for third parties to use to mail exact postal routes. The prior way of doing print marketing and sending mailers, you used to buy an address list, and you would never know if the addresses were any good, and you didn't really know. There wasn't a lot of transparency around it. And then the US Postal Service created EDDM, which allowed third parties such as Terradel, which is the company that we use, to actually select postal routes based on the US Postal Service route system. And so now, as the business owner, you can say, okay, well, this area right here is all industrial. This is not a good place to target. Or this area is all new development. Maybe we wait until it's more occupied. And so you can, down to the penny, know exactly how many mailboxes are going to be hit when using EDDM. And that's one of the best parts about this, because in the past, when you'd buy that address list, you'd have to print the mailers, you'd have to put the stamp on every single one. Now with someone like Teradel, all you do is click, point click, and then you know exactly how many postcards are going out. We've seen a lot of success with the odd shaped postcards. And so the 4x6 postcard is not, you know, as you guys kind of reflect on how you pick up your mail on a daily basis, you can kind of look at your own consumer behavior. Do you just immediately discard the rectangle, you know, 4x6, 6x8 direct mailers, or what does it take for you to pull something out and actually take a look at it? And so we've had success with the 4-inch by 11-inch mailers, which are really long and skinny, and then the very oversized ones. You know, at the end of the day, all we want to do is get you looking at our ads and seeing and taking a look at it and saying, okay, well, this is worthy of me giving you a shot. Because once the customer comes in, we believe that the service speaks for itself. And so that's why customer acquisition is so important. Customer satisfaction is our North Star when it comes to the actual service. While we believe that the oil change only model goes into this, because the feedback that we've received over the years is that we don't want to be hassled. We don't want to be beat over the head. And while there is a time and a place for selling some of those products that I talked about earlier, whether it's the True Brand products or whatever, it can be done in a tasteful way. But at the end of the day, our customers, you know, it's funny when you talk to Mitch and you talk to Ryan Pierce, our franchisees, and you talk to them about how the bar is just so low right now that by doing the bare minimum of customer satisfaction makes people so happy right now. And they were kind of shocked when they started implementing our model, which is just a customer service based take on this business, that the reaction they got from their customers was just over the top. It's not only important to explore, to showcase the positive reviews, it's also important to talk to the negative reviews, because how you react to someone's negative review, for a lot of people, that's how they determine what kind of business you are. And so we have no shortage of reviews from people that are like, hey, we gave you a try because of how you responded to the negative review, not from the positive review. And so customer retention is an important part of this whole business model. One of the beauties of the quick lube model is once you have established your customer base, if you treat them right, it's a very predictable, very steady form of income and revenue. The flip side of it is there's a ramp up period where you have to build up that business. And as you're building the business, it seems it's not like a roofing business where if you sell 3 roofs in the first month you're in business, you know, you've made a profit, but then you're right back to selling. This is a model that is exponential, whereas if you just keep doing the model the way it's intended, it grows on itself, and then you don't have to be in a state of sales. The model itself does its thing. And so we've always said we'll do what it takes to retain a customer. We'll sacrifice $10 today to make $1,000 over the next 10 years. The LTV of customers is very important to us, and that just stands for lifetime value. We're about to venture into some other slides. I'm actually going to have our head of compliance, Justin, talk in a little bit about some of our training, but I'm going to talk a little bit about technology right now. We utilize a company called GeoStrategies to do our territory mapping. We did not want to be one of these franchises that gets into hot water with territory mapping because we didn't do it the right way by overselling territories, by having franchisees stepping on each other's toes. We've sold a lot of units. This model really resonates, and we've been very successful at selling franchises. And this investment in GeoStrategies has been fantastic because we have multiple franchisees in multiple markets, and they need to understand and know where their territories are. We utilize Square for our point of sale system. It's actually one of the few things that we mandate. I can go into details on that if anyone would like for me to go into details on that, because I think there's a lot of confusion around Square and some of the things that people think when they think of Square. But as far as the point of sale system goes, their in-store benchmarking is bar none the best that you can get for no money. For some of these other point of sale systems to get these kind of these trends and information, it would cost a lot more money. And this allows us to staff very lean and very efficiently. If we know that from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock is our busiest hour, well, maybe we have 3 people then, but only 2 people the rest of the time. It allows us to get really strategic about our overhead, and that's what allows us to maintain the oil change only model. The report builder for Square is bar none the best that you can get for no money. It's that you can build whatever report that you'd like, and then the internal inventory system for Square is also what we use, and it is bar none, again, for no money, the best system that you can think of. And since Square puts itself as a technology company first, a point of sale company second, you're always going to have the benefit of that innovation. There is Square does have open API, and that allows for third parties to build software on top of their API. So there is many different types of inventory software companies and SaaS products that you can get. I use the internal one from Square because it works perfectly fine. And because we use a just-in-time inventory system, it's not necessary to get some of these other types of inventory systems. At this point, we usually have my bookkeeper, David, talk to everybody. I'm going to go ahead and just skim through this. We do mandate QuickBooks Online as part of it because bookkeeping is an important part of this. But just know, if you want to schedule a call with David, you certainly can. He does all of our corporate bookkeeping as well as the franchisor bookkeeping and is intimately familiar with the Quick Lube space. And there is a benefit to having a bookkeeper who already knows the classification of certain expenses and different types of income revenue. This is a pretty straightforward business. If you really think about it, at the end of the day, you receive all your money at the point of sale. So you're not chasing inventories. There's no accounts receivable. There's really no accounts payable if you pay for your inventory cash on delivery. But from a bookkeeping standpoint, having someone familiar with the industry is very helpful. I'm going to hand things off to Justin Arnold, our head of compliance, to do training. I still control the slide deck, Justin, but I will pin you, and you just got to let me know when you would like me to change slides, okay?
Okay, thanks, Costa. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Justin Arnold. I work on compliance matters for the company. And right now I'm going to walk through the various ways in which Costa Oil supports franchisees from the time that you become a franchisee. Our goal, first and foremost, is to provide a model and a path for you to follow in launching your new oil change business. And we believe that if you work hard and you follow our model, that you will achieve success. And we're here to help, of course. We like to say that while you are in business for yourself, you're not in business by yourself. So after you officially become a franchisee, one of the first things we help you with is site selection. You will be assigned a franchise coordinator to help you navigate the site selection process, but we encourage you to really quarterback that process and take charge of it as you look for sites that are viable. Next slide. So towards the end of the real estate process, you're going to begin training. And really, when it comes to our brand, there are 4 components to training. The first is a pre-training module. The second is classroom training in our corporate headquarters here in Hanover. Hands-on training at our corporate store in Hanover. And then post-training motor oil U access and required modules. Now, what is Motor Oil U? What's our pre-training module? Next slide. So we created Motor Oil U, which is our proprietary oil change training platform for franchisees. And it's on that platform that you, as franchisees, if you've designated a principal operator that's different from you, your principal operator, and any territory manager, if you're a multi-unit franchisee, you're going to have go on to Motor Oil U and complete a pre-training module before attending training here in Hanover, Pennsylvania. Next slide. Motor Oil 101 is the required pre-training module, and it focuses on both business management and technical skills needed in our industry. Taking that module is going to really ensure that you understand the basic terminology and the industry concepts discussed further at training. Next slide. Now, we hold our new franchisee trainings here in Hanover once per month. Once we certify that you've completed Motor Oil 101 and that you're nearing the end of the construction or conversion process, we're going to schedule you for the next available new franchisee training class. That training should occur at least 4 weeks prior to your grand opening. In an ideal world, you wouldn't come too early such that you forget all of the information that you've learned. But at the same time, we want you to have every opportunity to prepare for your grand opening. So we believe 4 to 6 weeks prior to grand opening is ideal for attending training. Next slide. Now, the in-person training here is comprehensive and fast-paced, and there are different parts of it. It lasts 3 days here in Hanover. During the training, we're going to build upon the material that you've learned in the pre-training module, Motor Oil 101. Half of the training is going to be in classroom, and it's going to touch on various topics ranging from point of sale software, Square, kiosk safety, recruiting staff, marketing the business, risk management, and financial concepts. Next slide. Now, the other half of the training is going to be at our corporate Hanover store, and that's where you're going to get your hands-on training on kiosk operations and management. So franchisees, principal operators, and territory managers, if applicable, must attend those training sessions in person and successfully pass training. Now, and after training, next slide, each attendee will receive a certificate of completion certifying satisfactory completion of Costa Oil's new franchisee training, which is a prerequisite to being able to open your kiosk. And then you're going to work with our team to prepare a business plan specific to your location prior to launch. Next slide. Now, following training, there's more training. Each franchisee will have complete 24/7 access to Motor Oil U to use it as a resource for everything franchisees need to know about how to operate their kiosks, including their optional courses, manuals, job aids, forms, and other helpful documents. And you'll be able to access these materials as you start recruiting your team and preparing for your grand opening. Now, in addition, there are going to be several post-training courses and modules that we're going to require you to take after you leave training. Keep everything fresh as you move towards your grand opening. And all of that is going to comprise part of your formal Costa Oil training. Next slide. Now, following the initial training, we continue to provide additional trainings as needed to franchisees. One example of our ongoing training is our weekly conference call specifically for franchisees, which covers various business and operational topics including local marketing strategies, tips on resolving customer disputes, how to generate fleet sales, cash management strategies, tips on reducing overhead, etc. So every week you'll be able to jump onto this powerful 30-minute conference call. It's run by our head of franchise development. You'll be able to jump onto this call from wherever you are, whether you're at your kiosk or not, and receive ongoing group training on a continuous basis and really learn how to optimize your business. Next slide. Now, as mentioned earlier, each franchisee will be assigned a franchise coordinator for assistance during the pre-launch phase, including site selection, construction or conversion, and training. Now, once your business opens, our operations team will be available to assist you via Slack with immediate operational support needs. For example, if a situation arises in your business, in the day-to-day operations, you're going to be able to contact us for assistance in guiding you through to a resolution of the matter. We are a resource for training on hiring and management best practices, customer dispute resolution, oil change procedures, and of course, point of sale system issues. We're there to advise you in running your business, but we're not there to run your business for you. We really want you to take charge of your business. Now, additionally, of course, for less urgent questions or problems, you'll be able to submit questions to us either via Slack or via email, or schedule a one-on-one call with our operations team. Next slide. Now, each franchise location is going to receive a web page on costaoils.com. This is going to be a site that provides information on your business, such as your hours of operation, your address, your staff. You'll be able to customize that by request, and we'll make those updates on our end. Next slide. Actually, can you go back one? So let me say a word about our web store. We have an online company web store for franchisees to purchase marketing materials and promotional items. And you're going to be able to purchase branded apparel and merchandise as you deem appropriate. And you're going to be able to order your replacement stickers through our corporate office. Next slide. As you know, from today, Costa's mentioned that we've established relationships with specific vendors to help our franchisees with various things such as oil filters, bulk oil, equipment. We will provide you with a complete list of our approved vendors for your reference once you become a franchisee. But here, as you can see on the screen, are a few of our partners for major items. And we've established these relationships to provide our franchisees with reliable options that we've vetted to help them operate their kiosks without the need to search for outside options. For many of the items, you're not required to use a vendor from our approved vendor list, but if you use another vendor that's not on the list, you would simply request approval via Slack or email and wait to receive approval. Next slide. Finally, one of the ways we support franchisees is with a mystery shopper program. The purpose of that program is to help our franchise owners who are not always at their kiosks ensure the operation of their kiosks meet the highest standards and that it's in compliance with the franchisor's brand standards. And this provides employee coaching and training opportunities for franchisees, and it helps us maintain brand consistency. That's really it for franchise support. At this point, I'll turn things back over to Costa.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it.
Real quick, if anyone has any questions for Justin, this would be the time. There's nothing in the chat, Justin, FYI, but if anyone does want to ask a question.
Yeah, this is Sabrina again. Sorry. Justin, about the website that y'all have, I just, when I was looking at the, just looking at the other franchisees, I guess corporate offices, I noticed that the websites are, some of them are not completely developed, I guess you could say. Is it up to the franchisee to make sure that their website has all the information that needs to be out there in order to communicate where they are, what their hours are, and different things like what their services are?
Sabrina, I'll speak to that. So the franchisees are in charge of submitting the information through an internal form that we have at the bottom of the website. If you go to the very bottom of costaoils.com, there's a link that says franchisee portal. And that is where there's different forms for them to submit the information. But what I think you're referring to is when we bring someone in the system, even if they do not have a site, if they have a territory, we do create a page for them with placeholder information so that the different web crawling systems start logging that information that, okay, there's going to be a Costa Oil in Noonan, Georgia. There's going to be a Costa Oil in Traverse City, Michigan. And so we try to get it on there as fast as possible. And it should say coming soon as opposed to now open. And I believe that might be what you are making reference to, because we just want that day one when you open for there already to be a Google My Business profile. We want there to already be first page results for oil change near me. So we do the data and the research to determine, okay, what is the most searched term in this market? Okay, so it's going to be quick oil change, fast oil change, cheapest oil change, whatever it is. And then we want to target the locations around that phrase to make sure that when your doors are open, from an organic search standpoint, we are on as many pages as possible. So hopefully that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that answers my question. A lot of them were saying coming soon. I guess, is like a lot of people, when they see the website, that kind of is like a first impression of your company is when they look at your website. I know you got Instagram and TikTok too, but some people kind of look at that. And I was just wondering, what kind of effort the folks are putting into making sure that that looks nice and represents Costa Oil well.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a conversation offline about that because we have all the data to show that people their consumer behavior is not real. Like I said, we try to cast a wide net. We're not going to cater to that one guy who is going to be super critical of the website. You're looking at it because you're interested in our website, you're interested in our brand, but the data shows that the vast amount of consumers are using Google My Business. And actually what the data is showing, most people are making their consumer behavior around decisions around Google Maps, actually, even more so. So I could talk to that point a little bit, but Justin, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. I'm gonna hop back on video. So kind of going on that same vein, we do offer a subsidiary to the business called Costa Services Co., which is just a customer reputation management service. There's two levels to it, where basically the first level is the lower level. We will respond to your reviews. We will respond to all of your customers' inquisitions on the different platforms. We will do all of the customer reputation management. And then the full service, which is the second service, we will do all three of these things, where we will also post the content, the copy. We will make sure that the posts, the negative comments are being hidden, the reviews are being responded to appropriately, that articles will be posted to your social to help with the content marketing part of the equation. And so that is just something that we offer. And actually, starting next year, actually, our 2023 FDD is going to come out after we go dark in a little bit. We are mandating, we're not mandating these services, but we are mandating that we set up everybody's social media pages. So as of right now, everybody on this call, you technically would be responsible for getting your Facebook page set up and your Instagram page. But starting next year, we are actually going to be handling that in-house. And for those who have been asking us to do it, we've been doing it. It's not a huge deal, but it is good to have continuity across all of the Facebook pages, the Google My Business profiles, and the Instagram pages, etc. So at this point, we typically go into the Q&A for, we usually bring on a couple of team members from different stores, and we ask all the questions that need to be asked. And this can go on as long as we need to go on. What I want to do right now is actually kind of touch on Sabrina's point real quick. So the number one term for oil change is actually oil change near me. So, and it's usually pre-filled by Google. And so most places we're really targeting that phrase. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the change in consumer attention, because that's really all I care about. Is I pay attention to what people are paying attention to. At one point in time, Yelp was the most relevant platform for businesses, and now Yelp has all but become, irrelevant. So Google is the most powerful search engine until AI takes it over. Right now in our market, so let me use precise location to make sure this is accurate. We do not have a Valvoline in Hanover, so make sure I'm not on a VPN. Okay. So, as advertising evolves, there are different consumer behaviors that start to become prevalent based on, what the different technologies are. And for a while, there was a thought that Alexa was going to become a more prevalent part of everyday life. A lot of people thought Alexa was going to replace search. Right now, Google search is still by far the best way for people to find different businesses. There are a lot of people that think things like ChatGPT could displace Google, but until that actually happens, it'll be interesting. But what, these different marketing firms, and they like McKinsey and Deloitte, they spend all this money to figure out consumer behavior. And so you can kind of just self-reflect on how you do your own consumer behavior. And it's interesting because people have almost like trained themselves to ignore these first three results, because we know that these guys paid to be here, right? And so what the data is starting to show is that the maps section, and I don't need to get it too much in the weeds on this, but there's a coding mechanism called rich snippets or rich schema, which is like, whenever you do a search for something and you see like the little Wikipedia blurb in the right-hand corner, that's a rich snippet. So the map is also a rich snippet. And so what people care about are these results more so than ever. While it's important to have first page results, and we definitely want first page results, what we're seeing is that there is a lot more people who are basing their decisions based on what's in the maps section. And so now Google offers the ability to pay to be on the maps section. So what Firestone has done is they have paid. And so in the same way that our brains have trained us to ignore these, I think inevitably, eventually people are going to start ignoring the first one. But right now, as far as ad spend goes, this is probably a pretty high ROI place to spend ad dollars, to be the first result on the map. So, first page results are still good. We want to have as many. So here we are once. We got Valvoline a couple times, Meineke, Goodyear, Midas. Here we are again. I don't want to use Hanover is not a good one to use because I do a lot of searching in Hanover because that's where our headquarters is. So I'm just going to pick
How about Youngstown?
Boardman, Ohio. So again, Pep Boys is paying to be the first result on the maps. You got Firestone and Pep Boys paying to be the first results on the page. And then organically, you have Valvoline first, Yelp is the second, but we are probably the first result on Yelp. And then you have us, Pep Boys again, organically, Groupon, National Tire and Battery, then us again. So, multiple places on the first page, but I have stopped giving a lot of effort into first page ranking and more so on trying to be first page, first result on map. Now, because I am logged into my Gmail account and I manage this page, I am not certain that this is organic or not. You guys are free to open up a tab and search oil change Boardman, Ohio. I would hope that we're still the first result on map, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out that I'm currently logged into my Google account, so that might be skewing that a little bit. But in any case, that is kind of the direction things are right now. But I'm not married to any one way of doing marketing. I right now, Facebook ads are still the easiest and the lowest cost ROI. If the price of billboards came down, I'm not married to any particular way of marketing. All I care about is people's attention, people's eyeballs, and the return that it takes to get those eyeballs. So, as things evolve, we're always going to have an idea of where people's eyeballs are. And then you have to look at the cost of getting those eyeballs. So, for us, it's always been important to be on the platforms that people are on, and then also doing the creative and the content marketing that gets them to stop. Because as everybody knows right now, when people are looking at their phone and they're scrolling like this, you need to do something that gets them to stop. And so we've strategically worked on our ads and our copy to be able to get people's attention. Okay, now we have their attention. Now we need to get them in. And so it goes a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, a little bit more nuance, a little bit more nuance. And then all of a sudden you have a new customer. And then as long as your employees are executing the model, which we believe is a superior model. And again, don't have to take my word for it. Go to the Google reviews and you can read any of the reviews versus, we have 607 5-star reviews versus Valvoline at 475 at a 4.4. I mean, I think we all realize at this point, anything below a 4.7 these days is actually not good. It might seem good to if someone's doesn't have the nuance, but people want to see a 4.7 and above. Basically, everyone understands there are people that it's difficult to please them, and you're going to have, some people that are going to be upset. If I go to our reviews and I find the 1-star review, maybe it's around pricing. We're not the cheapest. We're selling people convenience. We're not trying to compete with Meineke and Midas for cheap oil changes. They use them as a loss leader. We use them to make money. And so we're never going to be the cheapest, but that's why it's important to talk about the value we provide. And so really the 1-star reviews are more important.
Yeah. Costa, I was looking at your reviews, and they're enviable. I see they're higher than anything else. Pep Boys looks terrible from the sites you pulled up. There is a conscious effort for you to focus on customer service and satisfaction, and I think that's ingrained in your business, and probably one I left out with the other 3 I mentioned earlier. But you do have a proactive effort to bring that into your transactions with your technicians, correct? There are some compensation pieces that you add so that folks, are focused on that. It's an initiative that you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, your workers' behavior is going to be tailored towards how you incentivize them, and that's why our industry has gotten in trouble in the past. Is people's compensation has been based on selling things, and cars have gotten really high quality, and so it's just impossible for every single car that comes through your doors to need a secondary service or a secondary product. And people have become hip to that, and they know that they've been sold things that they don't need in the past. And that's why it's been even more important for us to overcome that credibility issue by instilling credibility, by training our guys to be able to carry conversations, look someone in the eye. And we'll compensate our guys. We'll do different types of ways to compensate guys based on customer service versus, sell an extra air filter. And it pays dividends too, because the tenure of our employees is above industry average, because they don't feel like they have to look over their shoulder in order to keep their job. Whereas some of these other places, your compensation is based on ticket average. It's based on the sale of other services and products. And if you're constantly feeling like, okay, I'm on the hook this week because I didn't sell enough air filters, well, that's a toxic work environment, and those employees are going to leave. And so when they come to us and they see, okay, things are, the grass is a little bit greener over here, that leads to guys staying a lot longer. So that's the power of having some of our employees do our discovery days. And again, I wish everyone could have been here in person. It's a much more we just did in 2 hours what typically takes 5. And so I'm more than happy to field questions for the next 15 minutes while we wait for one of our franchisees to hop on to do his Q&A. But we usually have an employee come on and talk about it from the employee's perspective, and it's a pretty powerful part of the presentation. But we don't have anybody today. You're gonna have to settle for me. But if it makes you feel any better, I've done tens of thousands of oil changes, and I still do them till this day. When I go in and visit the stores, I'll hop in and do oil changes with my guys.
Great. Costa, thank you. If I could just give our candidates and attendees a heads up. Costa has arranged for Mitch Urbites, one of our franchisees in Michigan, to join the call. I know that many of you were looking to speak with our franchisees, and given the time constraints with this new disclosure document, we felt rather than them getting 20 calls, separate calls, and it is difficult to reach them. Some of them have full-time jobs as well. We've arranged for Mitch to join us. It's a group call. And then just a quick heads up, I sent out an invitation. Gary, I still have to get your name on it. I didn't have your email handy, but we have a validation call set up with Ryan Pierce out of Mesa, Arizona. Costa mentioned him earlier, and you saw some photographs of his 2 Bay location. And he can do that call at 11 o'clock Pacific tomorrow for about 40 minutes. So I just wanted to give you all a heads up on those 2 things, and then I'll pass it back to Costa, and he's available to answer any questions.
Michael, why don't you just go down the list of names and just one by one ask anyone who has questions?
Yep.
You can do it that way.
Great, let's do that and give everyone a chance. Dave, well, Noha, you come up first on my list. Do you have a question for Costa?
Yeah, I think the only question I have is in regards to what was presented here today, Costa. Is this something, all of these slides, is this something that we could have access to? Because you did go through them pretty quickly and skimmed over quite a bit.
Yeah, I won't give access to the actual deck itself, but this video will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel for a brief period of time, and then you can obviously pause at the different slides and go through it that way if that works for you.
Okay.
Great, super. Okay, can you send a link out to all of us, Costa?
Yeah, once it's uploaded, I'll send it out to you.
Thank you.
I'll probably keep it public for probably 5 days.
Okay. Yeah, there is an issue from a confidentiality standpoint, with the competition being out there. We often have them calling in as well, trying to get information from us. Anyway, Darren, thank you for joining us. And question from you for Costa?
No, I think he's covered a lot of information for us today, and I appreciate his time.
Okay, thank you. Steve Seagal from San Antonio. Steve may have moved away from his desk. John, I think we're okay. Oh,
There's
Steve.
Steve.
Hey, sorry, it took me a while to come off mute. Hey, I just wanted to come back to the 2-bay versus 1-bay. What's the throughput capability of a 2-bay versus the throughput capability of a 1? Not your average, not what you're seeing, but just what it's designed to do.
No, that's a great question, Steve. We did 38 cars on our grand opening of the Menor on the Lake location, and that kind of changed my perspective on it a little bit, because I had originally thought, okay, you know, if we do more than 25 cars, that's going to start to impact the customer experience. But we had a really, I mean, we were definitely overstaffed for the grand opening. So we had someone running the register and, you know, taking care of different things, but it did change my perspective on it. So I do think that the capability of a single bay is higher than I originally thought. So, but I do think that once you get past probably 45, 50 cars, you're going to see a decline in customer experience with the single bay, just the amount of people waiting. And if you're in the automotive space, you know that it's not, you know, this isn't fluid. It's not, you know, 2 cars every hour from open till close. It's usually 0 cars, then 10 cars, and then 3 cars, and then 11 cars. And so this does, the cars don't get together in the morning and say, okay, we're going to make it easy on these guys. So the 2-bay, just to, you know, the most I've ever done is 68 cars. And I feel like there's room for much more without, you know, hampering the customer experience. But I just from industry experience, the facilities that typically do 75 plus cars, those are usually the 3-bay when you get into 3-bay. But when you get into that point where you're doing that many cars, you're usually, I mean, the model already for these other brands, they're typically staffing 7 to 10 people, regardless of if it's a 2-bay or a 3-bay. So again, I implore all of you to check out your local Valvoline, Jiffy Lube, Take 5. If it is a 3-bay, kind of just see how many people are actually working, how many people are standing around, see if they have a cone in front of the 3rd bay, if they're effectively only using 2 bays anyway. It's an interesting exercise to perform in your local market.
Costa, just quickly, with the 68 cars, were you doing that with a manager and 3 technicians, two on each bay?
Harrisburg is typically 5 guys. In the summertime, we go down to 4 in the winter and spring. And I myself have done a 55 car day, just me and one other person, and we did it no problem without any disruption to the customer experience. But I think you got to have really experienced guys to do that. We have a, you know, just to kind of go off on a side tangent, when people ask us what our mode is, there's a couple different answers that I give, but one of the most important ones is our flow chart, our proprietary flow chart that allows us to do more with less. And I'm going to step away from my desk for a second. I'm going to grab it because we have it in every single location. But our business is genuinely divided into 2 employees. You have upper bay and lower bay. And I know you can't see this, but it's just a representation of our flow chart. But if you were to actually, if you were to bring our business down to the, you know, the most basic steps of what this business is, it is this flow chart right here, which is proprietary to us with upper bay and lower bay. And this is what allows us to do more with less. And so when we train our employees and we hire employees and they learn this flow chart, that's when, and it becomes second nature to them, then all of a sudden they can do more cars with less people. And then you get to the point where you start building the business and the more cars come in and you realize, okay, adding that 3rd person is going to make things a lot easier. And then you get to the point where you have both bays running tandem and you have your upper bay and lower bay, bay 1, upper bay and lower bay, bay 2. That's when all of a sudden those 50 car days are seamless because of that flow chart. And so that's an important part of the equation. Mitch just joined us, and I want to be cognizant of his time, so I'll switch over to his Q&A almost immediately. So Mitch joined us. His discovery day, I want to say, was August of 21. He is doing multiple locations with us. He has been open for 6 months now. He's a big believer in the model, and his car count has reflected that, in my opinion, because his ramp up period seems to be faster than some of our other franchisees. He is stuck to the model and appreciates the model and is the ideal franchisee. And if I had 100 Mitches, we would be a very successful brand. So I'll Michael, if you want to kind of just start over and do Q&A and curate the questions the same way we were going to do with me, I'll let Mitch go.
Great. I'll go ahead and do that. Mitch, welcome to the call. Thank you. It's lovely to see you again. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about your background, in terms of what you did before for a few minutes. I know you're married with 2 wonderful young kids, and then I will curate the questions or the answers. I think just to give everyone a chance, we will try and just work down the list. And if you could just limit your question, to one question, and see if we can get through all of them, that would be great. And then, I think we've got folks from all around the country, Mitch, doing what you did, but you did your Discovery Day in person in Cleveland. I think it was in Cleveland, yes. And we're trying to squeeze this in in 2 hours, what we did in about 6 hours. So
Wow.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you, Costa. Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning out west. And basically, my Discovery Day was right at the end of September of 21. And I think it was the last one in Cleveland, to your point, Michael. So prior to looking into different franchise concepts, I was a marketing executive at Amway Corporation. Amway is a direct sell company. It's been about 60 years old now, and handle a couple of their different product categories. Prior to that, I was electrical engineer for General Motors, but after my MBA down in North Carolina, go Heels, I joined Amway and then did a lot of due diligence. So I did, as Michael and Costa can attest, I did take some time to do validation, talk to some existing franchisees, and enjoyed Discovery Day very much. Got to go to those 2 stores there in Westlake and Mentor on the Lake. Those were great. And I signed right at the end of the year, like around Christmas time in 21. So about 15 months ago now. And I bought 4 locations here in Western Michigan. I'm in Holland, Michigan, which is right along the lake here. And basically 100% agree and align with Costa's philosophy on treating every guest with kindness and respect, making sure every vehicle leaves here in better shape than it came in, keeping it simple and focused and streamlined so we don't get distracted by extra work that other oil change places do, like tire rotations and transmission flushes and the like. So we are focused. And, I've been at this 6 months today. Actually, today is my 6-month anniversary. I opened on September 30th, right here in Holland with my first location. I'm working with the team right now, with the commercial real estate team, and Cody is my contact there in Hanover, looking for 2nd and 3rd locations. And I'm at this full time. So I've got 2 full-time technicians. I've got 3 part-time technicians, and I'm letting them run the show. I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning for a long weekend to see my kids, Michael, down in Nashville. So that would be nice. And I've got a great lead technician who runs the show in my absence. And he's here with me today. One of my part-time gals just showed up. So that's about me and my background and what we're doing here. It's been, like I said, it's been fun. It's been a fun 6 months, and it does take time to build up that reputation in the community, and the follows and the likes on Facebook and the Google reviews and all those things. But it's definitely paying off in terms of showing the guests a difference in what they see at around here. What they have is Performance Plus and Valvoline and a couple other brands, Walmart certainly. And everybody comes in and says, wow, this is really great. Never thought I'd enjoy an oil change, but it's true.
Right. Are you good to take a few questions, Mitch?
Absolutely. Bella just showed up. And I do have one young lady working with us.
Okay.
And she's a senior at the local area high school, but she's in automotive technology at the local county tech center. I found that is a great place to get some young folks in. I've got actually 3 part-time techs that are either in diesel mechanic tech school or auto mechanic tech school. And they're good because they enjoy vehicles and they want to learn. And it's a great opportunity for them to learn the retail business as well as how to treat guests with kindness and respect. And that's our focus here.
Great. Dave, do you have a question you'd like to ask Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch, thanks for taking the time to join us today. Just if you could please share with us a general indication of the ramp up in terms of number of cars per day that you saw maybe month 1, up until month 6 right
Sure.
now.
Thanks, Dave. Where are you located?
I'm near Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow. Right in the backyard there. Fantastic. Okay. So when I took over this shop, this was an existing oil change shop. I should have mentioned that too. This is a conversion. So there was a functioning oil change shop here called Victory Lap. He was here for about 1.5 years and he took it over from another person who was called Victory Lap. But they were doing between 7 and 8 cars per day. That was their car count when I took over. We had a fantastic grand opening weekend. Our first full month would have been October. We were at about 8 cars a day right there in October. So we kind of kept with where Luis was when I took over. November was pretty strong. We were at about 10.5 cars. In December, we backed down a little bit to about high 9s. January, we're just 9 even. I think January, February up here in the Midwest is our slow months. February, I ran a really killer Facebook special. We were up at 17.5 cars per day. And this month, we're right at about 12 cars per day. So, we're not quite doubled from when I took over at the end of September. And, I obviously want to go faster and get quicker, but we're getting a lot of customers that come in and see our Google reviews and look on Google Maps, as well as Facebook, as well as returning customers from Victory Lap. So we get a good mix of people and drive by with the sign we put up and that sort of thing. But start around 7. We're going to end right now. This last week, we've been at about 13.5 cars per day. So we're ending March strong. I think it's ahead of spring break. People are trying to get their cars taken care of before they drive down to the southern states.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for your question, Dave. Darren O'Byrne, he's from Greensboro in North Carolina, Mitch.
Nice.
Yeah. Darren, do you have a question you'd like to ask Mitch? Okay. There we go.
Yeah, Mitch, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. What are you seeing as your average sale prices going on?
Yeah, we're pretty high. We're about 2 to 1 full synthetics to synthetic blends here, which is promising. So, I think our average sale price right now, net sale after discounts, is right around $75. And that's for, average car ticket price.
That seems pretty strong.
It's been great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, I'm surprisingly doing a lot of full synthetic oil changes here. We get occasional mobile ones, which is even higher. It varies day to day, but on average, I'd say we're about 2 to 1 full synthetic to synthetic blend.
So are you doing this full time now, or are you still working in another job?
No, I'm doing this full time right now. But like I said, I got my lead technician up to speed, so he can run the shop completely independently. I've let him do that a handful of times now ahead of this long weekend coming up tomorrow. And I'm very comfortable with that. So I'm focusing now, working on finding that second location here in West Michigan and hopefully the third.
So as an owner, what does your typical day look like for you?
Sure. Well, I usually get in here. Well, I'm open 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, just to preface this. So I open 8 o'clock every day and I close at 6 p.m. every day, closed on Sundays. So I get in here between 7:30 and 7:45, open up unless I'm having Ramsey, my lead tech, take over. And then I come in later or I'm off doing something else. Coming in here, usually right now, I'm trudging through accounting and bookkeeping for taxes, which my bad. I've been focusing on our guests and on our managing the business, and I've not kept up on the bookkeeping like I should. So that's where my day is right now. And then, if I only have one tech with me, I'm helping mostly on top side now with the computer work and lookups and billing and filling all the top fluids and everything. And then I'm here till about 6:15, count the cash. If I have an appreciable amount, I'll take it to the ATM and dump it off. And then at night is when I'm going and, trying to catch up on some other things. But during the day, in between cars, I'm calling fleet accounts, trying to get some new fleet customers in, calling some big corporations around that are big employers. We have a nice program right now. It's called Work Perks with our largest manufacturing employer here in the area, where I gave them a standing 10% or $10 off, and then their choice of one of our 3 ancillary products for high mileage, oil cleaner or fuel injector cleaner. And that seems to be going well. So just, marketing and human capital, those are the 2 biggies. Once you find your location, you're up and running, it's always going to be marketing, getting in more customers, and making sure you're hiring great people and keeping them happy and supported.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Steve, do you have a question? Steve is from San Antonio in Texas.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Hey, Mitch, good to virtually meet you there, and congratulations on launching your new business.
Thanks.
My only question is, you've answered the cars per day and the average ticket price. My only question would be, based on your initial business plan coming in, are you running at, above, or below your original forecast?
Well, I'm kind of an overly optimistic, aggressive, impatient person. So I would say I'm not at where I want to be yet, but I know things take time, and I'm laying the foundation. And I truly believe that if you guys want, go ahead and take a look at Google, look at our reviews. It's just Costa Oil Holland. You'll see our reviews. Same with Facebook. You'll see our reviews, our follows, our likes. And I think building that foundation and making sure we have great, awareness and great reviews is helpful. So I know it takes longer than maybe I was hoping, anticipating, but I do believe that foundation is being built and it's going to build on itself.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sabrina, hi, you're up. If you have a
real quick, Michael, I just want to add some flavor to Mitch's answer. The only other information we have publicly available comes from Valvoline, because they're the only publicly traded player in our space. And they regard the ramp up period for their franchisees to be 3 to 4 years. And so, we're seeing our guys, we try to say 12 months. And that's when we try to get a lean model, it's all geared around the ramp up period, because we're trading off, sales for security. It goes back to the reference I made to, if you have a roofing company and you sell 3 roofs in your first month of business, well, you might be profitable day one, but you're continually in sales and you're very susceptible to downturns. Whereas in our business, everybody needs an oil change. And even during COVID, when people sheltered in place, people still continued driving because they needed to get out of the house because they were just being driven crazy. And because we had built, once you've built the customer base and once you've established your baseline customer base, it's very predictable. It's reoccurring. There's no real sales involved. Mitch did mention calling fleets, because fleets are the easiest way to mitigate the ramp up period. but you know, you're really trading security for sales, and that's what makes the ramp up period the most arduous part of the process, but it's very fulfilling once you've created that customer base. So I just wanted to kind of add that in, because we are, to Mitch's point, overly optimistic. We try to be optimistic about the ramp up period.
Great, thank you. I think we were going to get to Sabrina from Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks a lot for doing this. I really appreciate it talking to you. I know one of the reasons I'm coming to the franchise is my son was like one of those type of technicians that you hire. He actually went to school, so and I want to work with him. I really want to work with my son. What was your motivation to choosing this franchise?
Okay, that's a great question, Sabrina. Yeah. Well, my background is automotive engineering, and I'm a car nut. So it was kind of an interesting concept to be able to work with cars. But I will tell you, it's really Costa's philosophy. And in this divisive world we live in right now, where everybody's at each other and it's just not a friendly place. I love his philosophy of kindness and respect. And we do that. I instill that in all of my my team members, that we treat every guest with kindness and respect. I almost see this as missional. Michael can speak to this, but we've gotten to know each other quite well over the last year and a half. You know, we got an opportunity to reach out to the community and treat people with kindness and show them a great experience. But I also have the opportunity to work with young people and show them the value of a hard day's work and treating customers well. And so Costa's philosophy really married with how I like to live and how I believe I want to treat people. And I love that. But the side part is I'm a car nut. I've got a good car background. I've been changing oil since I was like 12 with my grandpa and then my dad. And I think that helps, but it's not necessary, but it helps just having a good understanding and familiarity with cars. So those are kind of the reasons that drove this. I was actually initially presented 6 different concepts because I was going to do a franchise. I just didn't know which one. And I narrowed it down to 2. And the opportunity to work with the general public and consumers in the community versus more of a business to business model, which was the other one, swayed me in this direction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina. One of the things I'm, this may be a little corny, but I'm a guy that, I'm fine with hugging. And probably, I think when Mitch saw me hugging Costa, hello, arriving in Cleveland, that's probably what did it for him. Just teasing. Anyway, thank you, Mitch. Connor, you're up next. And Connor is, he's from Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake City area, and his dad is on the call as well. Gary, thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Hey, Mitch. I was wondering, were there any unexpected things as you're opening up your first store that you kind of maybe you wish you knew before in terms of anticipating for?
I mean, there's always, local municipality guidelines and rules you need to follow. Those are things you don't really know until you get into it, like signage and permits and all that sort of thing. I guess, the other thing is just, I did a conversion. We had existing equipment here, tanks, compressor, pumps, meters, all that, and an existing oil supplier that the prior owner had. And just kind of working with him was a little bit eye-opening. I didn't know. I know Costa has a great relationship with PetroChoice and some national suppliers. So those are some things that, everybody's going to have a little different approach there. If you're set up with the national partners that Costa has, I think it's probably a lot more as laid out in the FDD. But if you're doing things and you're kind of acquiring existing relationships, there's some surprises there a little bit. I think the main thing is, like, once you find the location, like I said, is hiring the right people, and that takes some focus. and some attention, and then trying to find the right pool of team members is a little bit more difficult. I would say, yeah, I think finding the right team members was a little bit more difficult than I thought. And I would say just initially finding the location, because I signed up in December. And I was working on a couple of different angles with our corporate partnership there at Morrow Hill, and then didn't find this place until June. So it takes time to find the right location initially. But if you got that under your belt, then it's all about, human capital, hiring the right team members, and marketing. And, nothing's super easy. Otherwise, everybody do this, right? But once you do it and you do it well, I think it's definitely going to pay off.
Okay, thank you. Raquel, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I haven't been working with you. My counterpart, Chris Longmore, has. And I believe I just texted him, you're from Texas as well, in San Antonio.
No, actually, yes, you did say my name right. Thank you. I'm actually from Michigan. I'm going to be moving to San Antonio.
Okay. What part of Michigan are you in right now?
I'm in Adrian, so I'm almost close to the Ohio border.
Okay. Welcome.
Yes. Pretty much everybody's answered all the questions I kind of had. For Mitch, so I'm good.
Okay, great.
But congratulations on your business.
Well, thanks. Sorry to see you go, but I don't blame you, man. I'm too old for this winter in Michigan anymore, I'll tell you.
It's a whole lot nicer down here.
That's what I've heard. That's what I'm ready to get out of Dodge. Michigan's beautiful, and it's nice having all the Great Lakes and being in the winters sometimes, but the winters have got to
go. Good. Any question? Specific question for Mitch?
I don't have any. No, he's answered pretty much everything I had. That was actually I wrote down. So, nope, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Gary, you're up next on my list. Thank you for joining us. Do you have a question for Mitch? I don't hear Gary yet. Connor, a quick question for you, because I know you're partnering. I believe you're going to partner with your dad. And when I spoke with Steve Seagal yesterday, he had mentioned a number of places you guys have lived. Where is your dad based? Where's Gary based now?
He's in kind of Park City area.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So you're both around. Gary, one last, do you have a question for Costa? Okay. Let me move on. Michael, sorry, it looks like you're, we still have Al as well. Yeah, Michael, do you have a question for Mitch? Michael is out of Las Vegas.
I don't have anything at this time, thanks.
Okay, great. Al, I think you're next. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm out of, well, I guess Mitch is in Michigan as well.
Yeah, I'm in Michigan.
Okay, yeah, I'm in the Detroit area, actually, Mitch.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yeah, just was interested in something down here. So yeah, no questions, and right now offhand, I think a lot of questions have been answered so far.
Okay.
I guess oh yeah, thanks.
I would just say that, I took this first approach with a conversion, and it's can be quicker and a little less expensive. I'm really excited about the kiosk model and looking at my next one being a ground lease or working with the partners to do a new build, because we're seeing some neat success there in West Virginia, Colorado, and other places.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
Michael knows, initially was looking to do that right off the bat, but it was taking a while. And then partner we were looking at decided that, they weren't really interested in doing that after all. And I happened to find this.
Michael,
location.
can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, hi, Gary. Yeah, you're back.
Not sure why you couldn't hear me before, but my question to Mitch is, you'd mentioned that your daily car activity was about 12 or 13 right now. What is your break-even point on cars per day?
Yeah, well, see, it all depends obviously on your lease rate and things like that. My break even is probably around 9 or 10, but that's because I have a pretty low lease rate here. I got very fortunate to work on a long 15-year lease with my landlord here. But I know that depending on what your monthly expenses are, not just, lease or mortgage if you own the building, and labor rates in different parts of the country, I know in some places they're lower than they are here, and some places they're higher. So it's all going to be location specific and facility specific.
Okay. And what hourly rate are you paying your technicians?
Yeah. So
The screenshot.
I'm sorry.
I highlighted it with red.
Okay. So when I bring somebody on new, I'm paying $13.50 for a part-time tech. After a 30-day review period, if they're on time with no lates or misses or, good communications, I give them 50 cents an hour raise. Then I do a 3-month review and we go up from there based on performance. So right now, the range of my part-time and full-time technicians goes from $14 an hour up to $16.50 an hour for my full-time techs.
Good, thank you.
Have you had an issue retaining these techs, Mitch?
Not yet. No, I have one full-time guy that is probably going to be moving up to the Upper Peninsula, so I'll probably lose him, but it's not due to going to a different job here. It's moving out of the area. And then I had two older retiree guys help me start this place, which was super helpful. And they just backed away now as I've filled in and hired my part-time and my 2 full-time techs.
Right. Okay. Mitch, I know you were talking about a topic. I don't know if you want to return to that. Gary, thank you for your question.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking about, the different ways you can get into the cost of business, obviously with a conversion of either leasing or buying a building, or, a new kiosk with either owning your own property or doing a ground lease. And I'm excited to be able to get into a higher traffic area with either a ground lease or a partnership with the Colvin Group and do a new build kiosk. It's taken some time, but I know there's some great traction now that Costa has with a couple locations, with the Brits and the Britzes in West Virginia and Brandon out in Colorado and a few others. So I think there's pros and cons. Obviously, it's going to take longer to do a new build and it's going to probably cost more, but you can get into a great high traffic, high visibility, great egress location doing that. And that's what we initially started looking for. But like I said, the corporate partner decided they were going to hold off on that. So I found this conversion. I think they're all great ways to go, but I'm looking for more of a diversity of business types in my 4 locations.
Great.
I have one more question for Mitch, if you have time.
Sure, thanks. My part-time tech is here, so we're good. We got it covered now.
So if you run into a dead time during any particular day where there's just zero activity, have you discovered anything that your people can do to entice customers to get off the road and come in and get an oil change?
Well, I joke that they should go out and do jumping jacks in the middle of the street and wave people in, but they haven't done that yet with me. But we do have like a sidewalk sign out there. And what we do is we watch basically fleet trucks go by, whether they're HVAC, plumbing companies, electricians, pest control, whatever. And they're out there getting numbers and names and making calls and explaining that we offer, the first oil change to give us a try for free. And then we talk about terms and discounts and things like that. So it's about calling up, prospective fleet accounts is one thing. And then as far as other things go, there's always things to do around here with cleaning and organizing and helping out with inventory and things like that. But I would say that's the main thing we do to try to get more customers in for the techs when there's downtime, is just make sure they're out there looking and see who we can call.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
To just add some more flavor onto that, in the beginning, being consistent is way more important than you'll get some of these independent guys who will try to mess with their hours, or they will try to get they'll try to get really creative with staffing, and really what's important is, even if no cars are coming in, is just having that availability, because you don't want to have what I refer to as death by 1,000 cuts, where they may not, if someone comes in and you're closed during regular hours, that's, strike one. They try it again and it happens again, that's strike two. It's way more important to just be consistent in the beginning. I love what Mitch is doing with watching the fleets go by, because if the car is in the area, that means you already know that they do business in that area. So it's a very high conversion opportunity for fleets when you do that. There are other things you can do, staffing permitted, such as flyering public areas, and then also community outreach, guerrilla marketing, reaching out to local business owners, such as the local gym, seeing if you can put your loyalty cards at their front desk, things like that. But at the end of the day, the building up of the business, there's only so much you can do. The fleet accounts is the best way to mitigate that. But once people realize that there's a better alternative out there, that's how a car count goes up. And you're seeing that with Mitch. The previous guy had been there for however long, and they were at a certain number, and you get to that point where you just accept a number, and then, that's not good enough for Mitch. So he's going to do more than as much as he can to get people in the doors. He averaged 17, 18 cars a day in February. Well, 3 months from now, we're going to see what that number looks like, and how many of those people come back, and did those discounts that he gave out in February pay dividends? Well, 3 to 6 months from now, we're going to find out. And then you wake up 3 years from now and you're doing 30, 40 cars a day, and all that work pays off. So does everyone still see my screen? Is what's showing on the screen right now? I want to share some of the photos of our West Virginia build.
Yeah. Got my review up is what I'm seeing.
Okay. So let me do a new screen share. All right, what does everybody see now?
Yeah, that's what I see too.
Okay, I see a pit now. Yep, a vault.
Yeah, so this is the St. Albans, West Virginia property. This is what our new kiosks look like. We have precast pits that are brought in. So the longest period of time for this facility was getting the permit, and then the building going up from this picture to this picture was actually 6 weeks. So the building goes up very fast, because this picture right here, it doesn't show it on this picture because the building's already up, but over where the equipment is, actually the building is kitted together and put into a shipping container. The shipping container is brought to the site, and then the building is assembled. It's prefabricated and assembled on site using these SIPS panels. And ironically enough, the kit comes from Holland, Michigan. So Mitch will be able to visit the warehouse where the kits are put together. But once the building is assembled, it goes up very quickly. Right now, what we are waiting for in West Virginia is the asphalt company to do the driveway, because the building has actually been completed. I was able to visit the building a couple weeks ago and took some of these pictures myself, and we're just waiting for the asphalt contractors. Now, what I think is about to happen with commercial real estate, variable rates about to renew at ridiculous numbers. We're about to see a lot of these contractors who are overbooked right now. We're about to see their availability skyrocket. And the best thing in the world is to be building when no one else is. And we're going to be in a unique position because we are only growing. And so the bidding process for our building should only become more competitive, because I foresee some of the development that's already starting to stall right now completely getting wiped out until interest rates start going back the other way. And that only allows us to get these built even faster. So we look forward to the grand opening of the St. Albans building in April. And I do have pictures of the Eaton, Colorado, which is actually a single bay new construction. Eaton, Colorado is an interesting one because the town, and to go to Mitch's point about kind of getting acclimated to the local requirements of each town. Here's an inside picture. They made us have a pitched roof in Eaton, Colorado to match the rest of the town. I'm not sure if I have any. This is Eaton, Colorado, but I don't have any of the new pictures, I don't think. That's all right.
Okay.
Costa, what's the next kiosk going up after Eaton?
Probably Julio and Anna in San Antonio, and then Armand Duvio in outside of New Orleans. And we're having a corporate store built in Warren, Ohio. That will go up probably pretty fast because I own the real estate. And so there's less, when you buy the land versus ground leases, there's just less hurdles to jump over. Ben Capel has his building permit in hand, but his landlord, again, when you want to try to control as many variables as you can, and it's tough because we live in a world where there's a lot of variables, but Ben's landlord is stalling the site development part of the process, which is frustrating. But he does have a building permit, so
okay.
I found the picture of Eaton, Colorado. What I love about Eaton, Colorado is, not to pick on any part of the country or anything, but you know, Denver is a pretty granola area that is very you know, the environmental part of the process was very important to these types of towns. And so we built a model that we hoped covered as many of those variables possible, whether it was the wind load of Chicago or the rain load of Seattle or the snow load of Maine. We created a model that hopefully met as many of those things as possible, so that when we go into a place like Eaton, Colorado, and yeah, they require this pitched roof. Is everybody seeing this picture?
Yes.
Yeah, so we couldn't have our normal flat roof like we have here. We had to do a pitched roof, and I'm excited to see what the end product looks like, but they wanted it to match the rest of the town. And we actually cannot have the cedar, the dark cedar siding either. We have to do, I think, a stone facade. It's going to be interesting to see what the final product ends up looking like, but that's kind of what Mitch is talking about, where you go into these towns and they have these different requirements that require your architect to make subtle changes in order to get approvals. So we have Jonathan Wilcox's grand opening is April 7th in Oklahoma City, and this is his building.
Nice.
And he's running two bays tandem. This third bay he's going to use for storage, but we've got a lot of work to do on this building.
Yeah.
But that's probably the next opening. And then Holly in Kansas City is opening probably by the end of April as well.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, Jonathan Wilcox, just a background on him. He's a financier and owned a car wash and sold his car wash. Holly Lavender in Kansas City was design executive with Lee Jeans. So Where is this, Costa? This one?
This is Eaton again, the only single bay that we have in the pipeline right now. We do have another single bay that is moving down the pipeline quickly. I want to say in Virginia.
Right.
But kind of obviously we started franchising in March of 2021, and the macroeconomic landscape has changed so dramatically since then. And whether it's labor, I'm happy to hear Mitch is able, and that's a good strategy to go after the students at the technical school. But, positions that we used to be able to hire at, $10 an hour have all of a sudden become $14, $15 an hour. So $13.50. I like that strategy of the probationary period. Give them a chance to prove themselves. That way, they see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can get you to 14. That way they grow with the store, so you're not overwhelmed in the beginning. Some of these macroeconomic changes have definitely made it a little bit tougher, but in the end, I think the feedback that you're getting, Mitch, is that the model is what the consumer wants. They like the oil change only model, and that's what they prefer. And so, we're going to keep on doing what we can to make sure that's the model we provide.
Great. All right.
Well, Mitch, thank you so much
Yep.
for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to see the progress. It's good to see your face there, Michael, and you, Costa. You guys have a good day, and good luck, everyone out there, with your decision.
Thank you, Mitch.
Okay.
Costa?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we've lost, we did go quite a bit over the time we allocated, but of course, it was wonderful to have Mitch on and joining us. Were you planning to show us some others? I don't know.
No, I was just going to go to the next steps.
Yeah.
This will move a little bit quicker than normal. Obviously, only as quick as people are comfortable.
Yeah.
But we want to try to get anyone into the system before we go dark that wants to get into the system, and then I'll talk with you a little bit later today, Michael, and we'll award territories, and then you can go through the process of doing your part.
Thank you. So I will chat with Costa this afternoon. It has been rushed, and we apologize, but hopefully this was really helpful for you. We do have a shutdown, probably going to be for about a month, and I know Chris and I had a number of interested parties like yourselves in the process, and sorry we didn't get to meet you in person. But if you do decide, you get the award and you do decide to move forward, you're going to meet everyone when you go for the training. But sort of the next step is after we talk with Costa, Chris and I, we will call with the awards. And, if we haven't finalized territory yet, then we'll go through that. We'll go through geo strategies, which Costa showed us earlier. And I would imagine most of us on the call here have been through that already and done some initial discussions. And then funding, we want to make sure that you also want to make sure that you've got a pre-approval for your funding if you're not going to be using all your own cash. After that, we will get a franchise agreement drawn up for you, and we'll send that out via PDF. It'll include your territory as well. We do a zoomed out and a zoomed in version, and then just have you take a look over that quickly, and then we'll get the franchise agreement sent out to you electronically. Justin, who was on the call earlier, actually works on that, and that you will sign and then wire the funds. We'll send you wiring instructions for the franchise fee. Once Costa receives that, then he will countersign, and you're on board. And the deadline, as I understand it today, to get all of that done is and signed and money wired is April the 5th. So Costa, am I correct on that?
Yeah, unless anything changes on our end, and it doesn't look like it. April 5th will be the last day before we go dark and then reissue.
Okay, great, super. So I think that's it. And, you know, of course, once you're on board, you'll be welcome. There's a welcome call. One of the first things that you would get involved in, of course, is the real estate with bricks and mortar concept like this. And Costa and his team, the real estate team, will get you talking with Taylor at Morrow Hill, who are out of Dallas, Texas. So again, Costa, thank you so much for hosting this, and also for all of our candidates, you know, your interest in this wonderful brand. And I guess Chris and I will be talking with you shortly.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. This will be on YouTube later today for anyone that wants to go back through it. And then in the next 5 days, it'll probably be taken down. So
Okay.
I'll send that over to you, Michael, as soon as I have it.
Beautiful. Great. Thank you so much. All right.
Cool.
And thank Justin for us too.
Yep, will do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.